guys, Jake from Full Access UTV here. Today we're in the 100-degree shop, sweating our butts off, trying to do some videos for you guys. We're trying to keep content going, and coming back from Coos Bay and dealing with this heat, it's been pretty crazy. But behind me we got our other KRX 1000. This is kind of our other shop beater up rig. This one we have not done a lot of installs to or custom modifications, so this one is the one we're going to be using to do all the install videos and demos and everything for you guys, kind of showing you how to put products on. This one is a 2020. I think I got about 1,000 miles on this one now. Runs 34s and also another great machine. So today we're going to talk about the shock mounts. For starters, this is how you do it. I'm going to show you guys some quick tips and points. We might be cutting, editing, going back and forth, but should give you a really good insight on how to do it and not have any problems. So for starters, this is our kit on the table. This is how you're going to receive it. Receive it. I still said it wrong. It is too hot in here. My kids packed these, so it might be a little sloppy and a little overdone, but we also include thank you cards and some Full Access UTV decals. So speaking of Full Access UTV decals, get a lot of requests, a lot of calls, say, hey, where do you guys put those, so on and so forth. We call them like a fender sticker, but we actually put them on the door, so represent us, we'd appreciate it. But back to the kit, I'm gonna open her all up. So this is actually the front shock plate. And this is the rear bracket. And yeah, that's it. That's all the hardware needed to install. Now you notice in the video we're going to change sizes on these bolts because we're giving you longer grade 10.9 bolts and spacers. So you'll get an idea why. So basically, for starters, you need a jack. You're going to need a floor jack. We have a really nice tall jack, but if you guys need a piece of wood, you can stack a piece of wood or two. Just be safe. There's a lot to say there about that, and people hurting themselves and so on and so forth, but just use common sense there. On our jack, we're going to take it, put it underneath the middle of the chassis. What you want to do is you're going to want to jack it up to just get the tires off the ground. I believe the easiest way to do it is with the tires on. You're just trying to get all the weight off the upper shock bolt. And keep in mind too, one of these tires will lift a little sooner than the other. So I just kind of keep my eye on it and wait to see which one's going first. Yep, and it looks like it was passenger side. And that's definitely a KRX because it has a ton of suspension travel. So what I'm going to do is take it down just a tiny bit and maybe a hair back up. So that should relieve most of the tension on the upper shock bolt. So now the upper shock bolts are 17 millimeter, so you need a 17 millimeter wrench and a ratchet. Basically just pull your nuts out of there. You're also going to need these 10s, which I've already loosened up for the video, but they're 10 millimeter on top. So this kind of shows you that the bolt is slightly under tension. So if you pull this bolt out a little bit more, it'll tell you which way it needs to go. So you can see as it came out of the mount, you can see it's a little crooked. So I'm going to say this one needs to go up, and I am wrong. So it is down. But you'll see that bolt move just a hair. There it is. So you know that is the free spot, and you can take the bolt right out of there. Now you want to keep the shock in there, and do not pull the shock out of the mount. You can just leave this right in here. You don't need to take it out or do anything. So even if you were using wood underneath, if it fell, that shock's still going to stay in that pocket and should still be somewhat safe, but don't take my word for that. So now we'll do some editing. I'll take out the other side and then we'll go back to showing how to install. So we got both sides off. The other side actually came out a little bit easier. The other thing to show you is on this KRX we have the windshield wiper kit. So it has an additional bracket that bolts up to the front of the shock mount. Makes it a little more difficult to install, but it still works out no problem. So right now I'm going to grab the front shock brace. Matter of fact, before I even go into showing you the shock braces, I'm going to get in here and take this camera and zoom in for a second and show you where the major problems are. So if you look, actually you can see this hole is already ovaled out on this one. And I'm not the easiest driver, so that's probably why, but this hole is ovaled out and stretching out this way. And you can see it. You can see how thin the material is from here to here. These things are just ripping apart, and the shock mounts are actually ripping down, not up. I discussed it in another video where we were talking about people jumping them and then braking. It's not the jumping and the impact, it's the jumping in the air. And if you imagine landing and then all of a sudden your shocks are no longer connected, they come flying through the roof, it'd be pretty horrible, but okay. Hand that back. Let's get the shock mount in. As I said, it's a little bit more difficult with this, with the plate, but just gotta pry it up a little bit. There it is. By the way, I should mention too, this hose was in here. It's just a vent, and I pulled it out of there. We'll be reinstalling that. Sometimes you don't even have to move it, but we get the bolts. Comes with two new longer 10mm sized head bolts. You just start those. This kind of holds your plate in stock. I said that backwards. That heat of the shop's starting to kick in. It holds the plate in place. So next is we supply new grade 10.9 bolts. So next you just want to line them up. You can move that shock back and forth and see if you can just get it in there because it may have stayed, but in my case I'm going to say no, and it looks like the shock's got to come up. So one way to do this, oh, there it is Wyatt, stand back for a sec, one way to do this is you can actually just try to grab your wheel and pick up just slightly while you're pushing your bolt in, and it should go in. And bing, that's it. So one of the catches here too is, Wyatt, if you can show on the back side, you don't want to push the bolt all the way in and the threads all the way through. If you do, you won't be able to get the spacers and stuff back in here. So that's where you want to go for right now until you get the other bolt in. Now this isn't a super hard job, just a little tricky. Everything is. Again, you can see this side wanted to go really easy. So that one's in there. So now the next step is, if you look at the kit, you got these big thick washers. The reason for these washers was on every one of these KRXs we have, there's a lot of weld boogers and splatters and stuff up in there, but back in there you cannot see. So by the time we started doing the plate on the back, we started realizing more and more we had to get away from that because it was going to be impossible to ask anybody to get back there and clean it up. So what's really nice is this washer is the same diameter as our plate. We've actually added 3/16 inch of diameter on the bottom here, and you've added the extra thickness here. So there's no way these shock mounts are ripping out. So I'm basically sliding my fingers back in there. Try to get that to stay and not fall off. Go to the other side, and you may realize, hey, I got to push my bolts through a little bit further, something like that. That's all fine. Just don't go too far. Just take our back shock bracket. So same thing, extra thickness, adds twice as much as stock. The main thing about this is you want to keep this U up to clear a push pin that's in there. This is the most difficult part to install, guys. That's why when we were putting in these bolts, we were putting them in so they just go through enough and just kind of go into that thick washer you put on the back side. So you want to be careful sliding it through. If you hit too hard, you knock off those washers. This is just a tedious little job of getting it in there, but it fits, it works, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So, sometimes it feels like you're going to hit that push pin maybe, and then you're going to want to push it down, and you can feel it go across. And I've got it across. Okay. And then right now I'm kind of catching up on the big fat washer here, so I'm gonna pull this bolt out just a tiny bit. And that's about it. Like, I think I've got that one in there, so okay, so it's on there. The next step, let me get my nuts. And let me see, and I need the proper size sockets. So we do a change also here. So the outside faces now are 16. The back nuts are going to be an 18. And where's the 18 wrench? Sometimes this is just an easier way to do it. So you can put your 16 on a ratchet or impact if you got it, but I like to usually just put that back there and keep it steady. Try to push this through a little bit. Yep, and that nut's on that side. All right, I got it on there. So now I got to push it through a little bit. This is where it gets a little tighter. Okay, feel it. So there is a torque on those bolts. My torque is tight. They are 10.9. Shouldn't have any problems with them. So you got the two on top. I'm becoming delirious. I think it's like 150 in here now. Maybe 160. That's pretty much it. Take it off the jack now, just lower it back down. And then of course you can shake the steering wheel, drive it back and forth to get this thing to settle down. It's pretty straightforward. You know, like I said, the trickiest part's in the back and you're gonna see that, but other than that, now you're gonna have peace of mind. You don't have to worry about anything. If you like what we're doing, you want to see more of this, we've got a lot more products to cover and a lot more performance goodies, so please click that like and subscribe, and thanks for watching, guys.